up, everybody? This is Eric Hattie with Everyday Hustle, episode number 3. Before we talk about anything, we have to talk about this. There is a challenge going on right now in the security industry, which I'm a part of. And two gentlemen before me have already put prized hair possessions on the market. A friend of mine, George Fletcher, shaved his head for raising $5,000. And a gentleman I've never met before, Ken, shaved his mustache that he's had for decades for raising, I think, $1,500. And so I have been voluntold, if you will, that I'm going to be participating by my good friends at Mission 500. It's a phenomenal charity that's based around the security industry and does amazing things for people in need. And I've been blessed and honored to have participated in several of their service trips. Both years I went to Puerto Rico. Fun story I'll tell you later about my most recent trip to Puerto Rico for the Mission 500 service trip. But I have put a bounty on my beard for $3,500. And so it's going to a great cause. In fact, there's a blurb on the website. I'll put it in the episode notes. And maybe I'll be one of those guys that figures out how to say, if you click here, it'll take you right there where you can give them your money. But on their website, it says, for 37 million Americans already facing food insecurity, the prospect of being quarantined means a very real danger of lost wages, further difficulty accessing enough food, and an increased reliance on food banks to fill their plates. School closures, job disruptions, lack of paid sick leave, and the health threats disproportionate impact on the elderly and low-income families are only a few aspects of this evolving crisis. So I've teamed up with Mission 500 and Feeding America to help children in need across the United States. Their goal is $100,000, which would provide 1 million meals to families in need during the COVID-19 outbreak, which means that I would be providing about 35,000 meals to get rid of this beard. And I think it's an amazing cause. I can't say enough about Mission 500. In fact, they put this challenge up for my beard yesterday, and I believe, if I'm reading it right on the website, we've already raised over $1,000. We have about 5 days left to do another 2,500. I have not been clean shaven since my junior year of high school. I was talking with Janet from Mission 500, and I told her it's been since 2002. So the better part of 2 decades, I've had facial hair of some sort, and almost all of that has been a beard. So I'm really excited to see what I look like with a naked face, and I'm even more excited to make sure that people here in our own communities are not going hungry through the COVID-19. So thank you, Mission 500, and thank you to any of you who have already donated, and any of the 25 of you who listen to this who feel compelled to donate now. So fun fact, the first episode I said the 3 of you, or I think the 2 of you who listen, and then the next one I said the 4. And I've been watching the analytics on my hosting site, and I like quadruple. Every time I joke about the number, the actual number of people who listen actually quadruples. So yeah, let's see if we can get it to 25, right? So Mission 500, again, it's a group of people from the security industry that have come together and really help some amazing causes. Every year they do a service trip. Both years I went to Puerto Rico. The first year we basically rebuilt a house in 3 days. And what was cool as shit about that experience is we went there with the expectation of we were basically going to rip a roof off and put a brand new roof on. And when I say it was a shanty, that's like a real estate agent saying that my house is a like a McMansion. It's not. This was literally stud walls, exposed wire, bare floors, The electricity was run, just exposed wiring from a telephone pole to the house. It was an outhouse bathroom. It was it was I can't fathom that somebody living in a U.S. territory lives that way. And this family had basically rebuilt their house themselves to the best of their ability with the funds they had available after Hurricane Maria. So we go in there and we have 3 days. We were going to replace the roof and that was it. And basically by the end of the first day, we had replaced the roof. And so we're all in the hotel having our end of day recap, and we're looking at each other. It was about, I don't know, 15 or 20 of us on this trip. And, we're looking at each other going, well, what the hell do we do? And I'll never forget it because the entire group of people came together and either out of their own pockets or out of the companies we were representing, out of their pockets as a company, we chipped in and we did so much more. We resided the house. We put in new windows. We rented a chainsaw and we cleared out a bunch of the trees around the house to prevent anything from falling on the house in the next hurricane. We didn't plan for earthquakes. Missed the mark there. But it was a once in a lifetime experience. And I can't say enough about Mission 500. I went this past October for a second service trip. And unfortunately I had to leave the very first day I was there. We flew in the night before. I got to go out with the group of participants, a lot of whom I had met the year before. We get to the job site the first morning. I'm digging post holes to put some concrete footers in, and I get a phone call that my wife was found unconscious in her car. She'd had a seizure, and they were taking her to the hospital. And I've been a traveler my whole life. My wife has some medical issues. It's something that we've always been prepared for, but I was not prepared to be 2,700 miles away. But thankfully, I was able to literally hop on the next flight and get home. And thankfully, she was okay. It was more scary than anything. And because of it, she was able to find a phenomenal cardiologist and find some underlying issues that hadn't been found before. Anyway, there's a whole lot to it, but I tried to do a second Mission 500 service trip. Thankfully, several of my comrades from Brinks Home Security were still there and got the job done. So anyway, this week and this week only, if we raise $3,500 for Mission 500 and Feeding America, I will go clean shaven. So where do we even go from here? I'm taken back. I'm honored and I'm happy and I'm humbled at the feedback I've gotten from the 2 episodes I've put up thus far. My old boss was just texting me earlier this evening and told me that he was listening to it and that he loved it and he thought it was great and he was proud of me and I thought that was really cool. So for everyone that's listening, thank you. It's cool. It's fun. It's keeping me sane in this crazy COVID-19 quarantine that may or may not be coming to an end soon, depending on who you ask. But what I want to talk about today, that's the same way I like transition on my team huddle calls every morning at 8 a.m. And so if any of you guys are listening, you're probably like, I have this whole chicken scratch list of thoughts and ideas for the podcast on my iPad over here. And, last week I shared my weight loss story and kind of talked about, self-improvement and milestones versus finish lines. And I wanted to kind of focus on another area that I personally feel that I'm strong at, which is personal branding. If you are in the telecom or satellite or security industry and somebody says Eric Hattie, you immediately know who I am. And that's not a braggadocious statement. It could be good or bad. But especially like, the security industry, you immediately think it's the guy with the plaid blazer, with the flower and the lapel and the beard. So, I mean, there's a lot of different ways you can brand yourself. There's the obvious ways. For example, you can go to erichaddy.com and it's basically just, a virtual resume, a landing site. And it's just a way to make sure that if you Google Eric Hattie, I have some control over what the results are. Because one day, a couple of years ago, I Googled myself and a family member with a criminal record was coming up higher than me on the Google listings, both in websites and in images. And A, I got to learn that family member had a criminal background, but B, I had to fix that. It was funny timing. Actually, that whole exercise was because several of my colleagues and I from Brinks Home Security went to a seminar by Jeffrey Gitomer, and he talked about driving your own narrative and making your own brand. And he says, if you can't spend $12 and go buy a domain with your name in it and put up a website, then, if you can't make that investment in yourself, what can you do? And so I'm literally sitting there on my laptop in the seminar, and I go to Google Domains and I bought erichaddy.com because, believe it or not, nobody else had it yet. And then that whole following week, I just created a website. I threw it up, created a couple of professional facing social media handles. So like if you are looking for me personally on Instagram, it's at Bearded Tech Exec. But then if you go to Facebook, it's facebook.com/beardedtechexec. Actually, you can go to www.beardedtechexec.com and it just redirects you to erichaddy.com. So, you heard me in the first couple episodes talking about continuity and how pissed off I am that every handle for this podcast is different. The continuity I was looking for is exactly what I have in my personal branding, where everything is exactly the same. Whether you're going to my website, my Instagram, my Facebook, everything has the same graphics. It's the same color scheme. It's the same handle. It's just continuity across the board. And to me, that's super important. But that's also part of my personal brand is I'm a showman. I have an attention to detail. You wouldn't guess by looking at me in quarantine mode, but I'm very in tune and aware of how I look. I always want to be one of the better dressed people in the room. And even that feels a little slimy saying out loud because it's like Grant Cardone saying, you got to look the part even if you aren't the part. Go spend all your money on a suit and a car and eat at restaurants that you can't afford so you meet people that are better than you. Fuck that. That's stupid. Networking is important, but don't overextend yourself just so you can be around people that may or may not have clout and power. That's fucking stupid. I have a blog post on beardedtechexec.com about how Grant Cardone's an idiot. Did you know that Grant Cardone has a private jet? He really wants you to know he's got a private jet. Even if I had private jet money, I wouldn't buy a private jet. It just seems like a waste of money. Like, you can like just go anywhere, anytime you want, but it's like $10,000-$20,000 an hour to operate a private jet. It makes zero sense. I'll stick with my American Airlines status. So beyond your digital brand and your visual brand, there's also who you are as a person. And I'm sure that anybody who has met me or done business with me or interacted with me, you could poll all of them and they would all have a very different opinion of me. I've always joked that, you either love me or you hate me, and there's rarely an in-between. And sometimes people go from one to the other and back. But that happens because part of my personal brand is I'm unfiltered. I tell you what I'm thinking. I tell you what I'm observing. And when I get my mind stuck on something, I'm kind of an asshole to convince otherwise. And I don't know. Yes and no. I guess where I'm going with that is I can be brash, but I would hope that a lot of those same people would also say that I'm caring and compassionate, and I look out for the people around me, and I take care of the people who work for me, and it's all part of who I am. I can't control, and nobody can control what people think of them, nor should you necessarily give a shit what people think of you. But you can absolutely drive the narrative of how you want to be seen, how you want to be known, how you want to be remembered when you're no longer here. Because your actions are absolutely going to carry volume over your words. And so while I sometimes say stupid shit, and I sometimes make poorly timed jokes or inappropriate jokes, or I say the word fuck too much, a lot of my actions would, help people see beyond the F-bomb driven, I don't know, had a brain fart, see past the F-bomb driven party boy, and it's not even, I'm not a party boy. The perception, is outweighed by the actions, and how I carry myself in my personal life, how I carry myself in my professional life, and the actual things that I do. But to bring that back full circle, you control your narrative. You determine what direction people are going to look, and how people are going to feel, and what people are going to say about you based on the things that you do. So you have an opportunity for people who have never met you, who just Google your name. You control the narrative of what they learn about you. Once you're interacting in person with people, or over email with people, or on the phone with people, you control the narrative of how they feel about you. And you have your own trademarks, things that people are going to remember you by. Whether it's a visual cue like the flower in the lapel, whether it's, that asshole never responds to his emails, or that guy leaves shit in DocuSign for 2 weeks and leaves me hanging on a project, or whatever it is, good or bad, your actions drive your personal brand. So, man, we covered a lot of ground in 18 minutes. That's awesome. So I've got a whole list of scribble notes here, things I want to talk about and I want to share with you. And I made a commitment to myself that I was going to keep doing this and keep pushing through and keep getting better. And that's exactly what I'm going to do. So let's go ahead and wrap this one up before the storms start rolling in. We're supposed to get some nasty weather here, and it'd be really shitty if the power all just like right in the middle of the podcast. So as always, for the 25 of you who listen to this, thank you. I appreciate you. I am always looking for feedback, criticism, thoughts, ideas for topics you'd like me to cover. And I've said it 3 times now. I want to bring some guests into this show as well. A couple of you have reached out and volunteered, and we'll absolutely be putting those together very soon. I would love to do those in person, but if I have to pipe you into my Bluetooth channel on the mixing board through an iPhone, I can do that too, because I got nerd on nerd shit going on over here. So anyway, my name is Eric Hattie. This is Everyday Hustle. I appreciate each and every one of you, and I promise the next one won't suck. Thank you guys so much.